I've decided that all I want for Christmas is to make a decision whether or not I want to see the Commanders beat the Cowboys or just another bad loss.
And all I'm interested with the time of tinsel upon us is silver linings against the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, I like that. Listen, Jeff Driscoll, fine, but justice for Sam Hartman.
Commanders, Cowboys, Capri Pants 2, Christmas Day Clash. Run the intro, Nick.
Hail to the Commanders! It's the Commanders Squad. Everything Washington Commanders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the nation's capital. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Rally the burgundy and gold. The Commanders Squad Show starts now.
All right, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, Melissa Kim, Nick Ashew. We are a full go, all four of us on here for the entire hour. I think I'm good. I'm pretty sure that that's the case. This is going to be a different show. I'll just say this because some of us are in various locations. You know, for so long in my career in the sports media life that I've lived, the joke has always been about people doing shows and talking about sports from their parents' basement. Well, for the first time in my life, minus the pandemic, I am doing a show from my parents' basement as we're taping this here on Christmas Eve. But we are brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Of course, Sam Hartman is going to make his way into the show, which shows you where we are at this point in the season with Josh Johnson officially named the starter, Marcus Mariota out. We'll look at that and why Sam Hartman is not going to be involved in this game whatsoever. We'll probably talk about Capri Pants at some point as well, plus the lack of Pro Bowlers for this team. And yes, they are still playing the Commanders on Christmas Day against the Cowboys in a Christmas matchup of a slate of games that doesn't involve a lot of playoff teams that I'm sure Netflix and Prime aren't necessarily too happy about. I will say this, guys. I know we are very, very disappointed that Sam Hartman isn't playing handsome Sam Hartman, but since I am in my parents' house, I promised some bits besides just the Santa hat. This guy's pretty handsome, too, from 2005. So if you want to look at that great haircut.
Same.
That haircut right there.
That is amazing.
Guys. So this is, and of course, if you're listening to the podcast, this means nothing to you, so you should watch it on YouTube. That is a picture of me with very spiky hair and a horrible flavor saver underneath my chin, or whatever that thing was called. I look at some of these boy band groups back in the day, and I see that spiky hair and realize that was me. So it's always good to go back, visit family around Christmas time. The problem is you see bad haircuts you had, and everybody likes to make fun of you for it. So I figured I would just open it up now and do that. But we are not going to have Sam Hartman playing at all in this game against the Dallas Cowboys. It has been confirmed that it is Josh Johnson, David. I feel like this isn't really that much of a surprise with Jeff Driscoll, at least knowing the offense's backup. I will just say this, David. I understand the explanation from Cliff Kingsbury as to why they want to put him out there on a short week. But I will also say this, and you can have your own opinions on this, but I will just tell you, I saw Sam Hartman in the preseason, and he didn't look like an NFL quarterback. So it's probably better they just hide all of that for the rest of the regular season, too.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, it's always hard to call for a young guy to get playing time when you haven't really seen him practice. Like, I know a lot of people are leaning on the what do you have to lose type of thing. You have a lot to potentially lose. Like, I mean, like to a certain extent, like your integrity as a team is definitely on the line. And then Anthony, I mean, you can speak to this, man. Like, if the Sam Hartman we saw in the preseason is the same Sam Hartman we would see out there against the Dallas Cowboys, the biggest rival this franchise has, and you're Terry McLaurin and you're Deebo Samuel and you're any of these guys and you're Ben Sinnott trying to prove that you have a future in this league, and that's the quarterback play you're getting, because what do we have to lose? Like, if I'm 30-year-old Terry McLaurin, I'm not going up for a 50-50 ball with this dude at quarterback. And if I'm Deebo Samuel, I'm not going across the middle with Sam Hartman as my quarterback. If it's that Sam Hartman, and given that he's been running the scout team all this time, and like Cliff said, it's a short week, less physical, more mental preparation, there's no way they should throw Sam Hartman out there. But the good news, Melissa, is that Dan Quinn did not close the door on Sam Hartman potentially playing next week, and he has been added to the active roster, so it would not require a practice squad elevation. He could actually be the third emergency quarterback.
This is very true. And that when Coach just said that, you know, about like an hour-ish ago, I thought it was good news for him because, like, can you imagine also like being like, I want to know like what Sam Hartman's mentals are like. You know what I mean? It's gotta be hard, to be overlooked when you were this stud coming out of Notre Dame and to have Louisiana Tech legend Jeff Driscoll be signed, you know what I mean, before you even get a shot. So that is the good news that we might, again, he's the hit emergency button quarterback. As you mentioned, with Driscoll being the backup and Sam Hartman being that third QB on the 53-man roster. So, I think that this is the best that he could have hoped for at this moment, right? In this juncture. So I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Still want a little bit of justice for him. But Anthony, we gotta get man capri pants out there.
He'll be out there in pregame. And he'll get to throw the ball around a little bit. But I'm glad he's activated. And I learned via Twitter or X that Jeremy McNichols would have been the eventual emergency quarterback. There would have been just more injuries in that game following, Josh Johnson and so on and so forth. So that parlay would have hit just the way the season's going. And you might get to see Sam Hartman. I mean, knock on wood, sitting here on this desk down here in the father-in-law's basement. I don't have any pictures of me and any spiky hair, but I do have some. I'll showcase this later on the show, which is kind of fun. It's pretty cool. But, no Sam Hartman, no problem. I think that when you're just now getting Terry back, you're getting your guy back, you need to at least give yourself the best quarterback possible. I've been on a roster. When I was with the Cowboys. When I was practicing with the Cowboys, it was 2013 season. I want to say it was Tony Romo and Kyle Orton. That's who I was working with. Okay, so you can imagine everything was crisp. It was on time. It felt like an NFL offense. When I got in the preseason games, they lined me up with two guys that I don't know what they're doing now. They were undrafted. One of them was a YouTube superstar, and the timing wasn't there. And there was a crossing route where I almost got my head knocked off. And so you don't want to put Terry out there with a quarterback who hasn't had those live game reps. And it makes the best decision. It's very smart. If you want to see what your offense looks like, you at least have to have somebody who's had some starts and who's been able to, operate an offense, even at, whatever capacity that it is. So I always go back. Now you got to put on the play caller to make it look good, Nick. So we'll see what Cliff does with Josh Johnson and Sam. What's his name? Jeff Driscoll. Lord y'all got me mixing quarterbacks up. Lord have mercy. See? Oh well. Nick, you take it away.
You bring up a good point though, because like there is that level, because like again, nobody out on this field is trying to lose football games. I can talk all day about good losses and all this, but like there's no player that's doing it. When you look at the familiarity of a quarterback, even a third stringer, and a wide receiver and an offense, like coaches don't want to add more layers of nonsense and obstacles and things that are going to make their job more difficult than this season has already been. So to have somebody like Josh Johnson, who, by the way, I'll continue to applaud. Guy's been playing forever for a million different teams, but he is like one of the best jobs in the world is backup quarterback. I think we all understand that because you can avoid a lot of the hits, make that money, and especially for somebody like him, he's played a long, long career. Like, this is why they brought Josh Johnson in. Now, you know that you're having a season that the Commanders are having when you look at a third-string quarterback starting late in the year. This is kind of just encompasses the entire season that this team has gone through. But that being said, at least you're in a spot where you have somebody that does have that familiarity as opposed to somebody in Sam Hartman where absolutely – I mean, you really know very little about how he'll operate in a game that's still going to have a lot of starters from the Dallas Cowboys side of things. Look, I mean, I understand both sides of it. I think that's really what this comes down to is I understand why you would decide, let's go with a veteran. Let's go with somebody that understands this offense from both a backup in Jeff Driscoll and a starter in Josh Johnson. And let's stay away from somebody like Sam Hartman. What I really want to know at this point is, and we may not have that answered until the offseason and maybe later, is if Sam Hartman is in any way part of like a developmental program for this team, or it's just he's there because, he's friends with Jaden Daniels and he's handsome and has great hair. I don't know the answer to that, David, but I will say this. They are at least showing that they are not prepared to put him out in a position to fail, which I think is good in some ways, but it also could just say, look, this kid just ain't ready, period. We're not even going to risk it no matter what. They'd rather throw Anthony back out there, and, he'd rather have him be the emergency quarterback, or, Jeremy McNichols, like you brought up before. But, yeah, David, I think if we're looking at where this is now, this is kind of one of those, let's ride out the season. Let's try to get some good vibes heading into the offseason, and let's focus on just everybody being as healthy as possible with whatever voodoo doll somebody keeps poking for this entire team.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I mean, there's a Cowboys fan somewhere who's been having a great season, and we need to find that person and get rid of all their properties and their possessions. Look, I have fun with the Sam Hartman as Jaden's BFF, bit as well. I really hope that people don't actually think that's why Sam Hartman is on the roster. I get that he may not be like a quarterback of the future, even a back. Like, he may not be on the practice squad next year. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, Sam, even with the practice squad, even with the scout team reps, like, there's still development. Like, anytime – you're playing football, you're getting experience, and you might be pretending to be Dak Prescott, but that's experience too. And it's just all about how does Sam Hartman translate that experience to what he needs to do for the Commanders if and when that time comes. And, the good news is he went to Wake Forest, he went to Notre Dame. Those are two pretty difficult schools to thrive at. So he definitely seems to have the intelligence. I will say this as well, Anthony. I mean, you can speak to the development that goes on behind the scenes, obviously a lot more than I can. And even the growth that Sam could be experiencing, even as he does, like I said, pretend to be Dak Prescott, for this week, Jalen Hurts for next week or whatever. But to the other Hartman truthers, Melissa and your crew, don't feel too bad for Sam Hartman, because the pay raise from practice squad quarterback to emergency third quarterback on the active roster is about 30 G's a week, ladies and gentlemen, a week. So to Nick's point, third string quarterback, not a bad gig.
It's good. You can get a lot of capris for that right there. And then you can get some crew socks to fill in the gap if you need to. You talk about going back to just the type of development he can be getting. One thing you got to think about, being on practice squad, if you're a young player, you got to really look at what you're doing. You're going against the number one defense every single play. Nobody else gets to do that unless they play on Sundays, the occasional Thursday, and maybe Monday if your team is pretty good. You don't get that all the time. So when I was coming up through the league, I'm like going against Will Allen down there in Miami. I'm going up against, the top, whoever else our the top corner was. We're going against him. In Washington, I'm going against D'Angelo Hall day one. Those are legitimate reps. And if you're BSing around, then you're going to be in and out of the league real fast. That's what happens to young players who don't take that stuff seriously. So if Sam wants to take his stuff seriously, he's back there treating those reps against that top defense like it's serious. Yeah, I'm Dak Prescott, but I want to tear this defense up. I used to take pride in pissing off defensive coordinators, Nick. Used to take pride. We used to high side, celebrate in the end zone, do everything to make them replay the drill. It's that type of seriousness that you got to take from these practice squad positions, man. It's cool that you're on the roster and you're getting paid and you only got to work about 3 days a week, and it is a really good gig. But when you're not trying to get to the NFL just to be on a practice squad. You know what I'm saying? That's not what your goal is at the end of this thing. Your goal is to play on Sundays. Your goal is to get out there and get active. So treat it seriously and you'll show up. So I think that the way that you'll see Sam Hartman over these next two games, there's going to be a clear point where both of them head coaches, regardless of how they feel of each other, are going to kind of say, hey, we're pulling our guys, you pull your guys, and they're going to have a whole second crew. And Sam will lead that whole second crew. He'll probably get a whole half against Philly, maybe even 3/4, just to see how he operates. So that's how Sam's going to get his chances. But right now, this first game here, let's see what Josh can do with these top cats. I mean, FanDuel's saying what? Can he get 10 yards a quarter? Him and Dak Prescott, Nick, I think he can. So if you got Terry out there, we can have a good day.
I think that's part of what we now have to think about is what this offense is going to look like. And again, we've got 2 games left in the regular season at this point, and we don't know whether Marcus Mariota plays the last game of the year or not. I mean, let's go with Josh Johnson, the last quarterback for the last 2 games. Let's just play that game. I mean, is this another chance then for them to run the ball more? Is it another chance for us to see a little bit more from a Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt and Chris Rodriguez and how they might try to use them in the offense down the road if Chris Rodriguez is back. I mean, Bill is going to be under contract next year, but, Chris Rodriguez is a different story. Again, I certainly think they're going to address more when it comes to the running back position in this offseason. But we can only go with what we got right now, Melissa. And when I look at this offense, and we've been begging all year, and as you came onto the show, you knew very quickly, like, we were all in on Chris Rodriguez. Everybody on the show, more Chris Rodriguez. And we've seen some of that. But then we also saw Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt use his goal line back a little bit last week. We know that he can be a threat out of the backfield as a receiver. Like, there was all this stuff coming into this year about what these backs could do. And we never really saw it. I get that they were down a lot in games, and you got to kind of abandon the game plan, and you're throwing the ball more and trying to get back in games, and everybody's hurt. There's a million factors here. But what I would like to see against the Cowboys from an offensive perspective, like, I know what Debo can do. I know what Terry McLaurin can do. And I know they're going to still try to attack as best they can. But I'd like to see more of those guys. I'd like to see more of a run-heavy offense that eats clock, that keeps that Cowboys offense off of the field, depending on who's out there and for how long and who's on a snap count or whatever the case is. We got all kinds of question marks that are throwing around. By the way, when I talk and this Santa hat bobbles on my head, it's very distracting. I've just got this Santa ball just bouncing and bouncing. I don't know how anybody can take me seriously, but you probably don't anyway, so it's fine because I've worn a tinfoil hat on my head. But that being said, Melissa, all I want for the last two games is to see more of what they've got from these backs, just so we can have an idea in the offseason how much you want to commit to whoever else when it comes to that backfield.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Obviously, good offense and start with the run game, but also thinking too about the O-line, right? This is an area that they've had a lot of injuries, and poor Sam Cosmi now, no longer he's still with us. I was saying no longer with us, still with us, just injured. But I think that was really tough, obviously. And Larry Tunsil probably not gonna. We won't know for sure. We'll know, by the end of the day. But Larry Tunsil probably not going to play either tomorrow. So I mean, it's a tough situation, I think, for this offense in general, because we know it starts in the trenches, right, to get that protection and to get those blocks. So it's a tough situation, I think, to see the development of some of these running backs, to see a little bit more Chris Rodriguez, even for the quarterbacks, you know what I mean? When you're working with an offensive line that's also been depleted with injuries, two of your main guys, two of the five are not healthy and not going to be your starters playing. I think that's a tough situation to be in too, to kind of figure out what it might look like. So, but then in that same vein, opportunity, obviously, for some of those guys that'll be filling in. Nick Allegretti and Andrew Wiley are going to be the ones that are rotating at right guard, according to Dan Quinn. So it could be a good opportunity to see for these guys to show, like, hey, I might deserve more of a role next season or for some other team, because look how I played in these last two games of the regular season against the biggest rivals for this Commander squad. So again, O-line. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on O-line for sure tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, shoot it. You got to keep that pass rush on their toes over there. Odigizua, Quentin Williams, those guys can really get after the quarterback. So it points back to the coaching. How you gonna call it? How you gonna help yourself? How you gonna help your quarterback out? How you gonna help your O-line out? Maybe you get some screens and just some things to get the ball. Get that defense moving laterally. Challenge the linebacker to try to read some things, maybe get them in the wrong position. You may be able to take advantage of them early. I've seen some things on tape. We've seen some things all season. There's some folks make some interesting reels, I tell you, where they point out some weaknesses on these defenses, Nick. But yeah, running the game should be fun. Running the game should be fun. Hell, they got to stop the run too. But yeah, running it on offense is going to help make this whole thing roll.
All right, and we mentioned, of course, this is a rivalry game technically, even though we understand a lot of names are certainly missing on the Washington side of things. Oh, and the name is different. It doesn't sound the same as Redskins-Cowboys, but that's what it is. So I don't want to hear anybody say it's not going to matter at this point. But what is the state of this rivalry between Washington and Dallas? We'll look at that next here on Commander Squad. All right, you and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, there's just no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. When you get them right, you win. It's that simple, and it takes less than 60 seconds to actually make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California and Texas and Georgia. I know you're maybe thirsty for a little action down there in those states. I've been using Prize Picks for a while too, and it's great on whether it's the NBA or it's the NFL. You kind of get a little something different too, especially if you want to kind of be interested in a game, but you don't want to go full all out in some of these other apps that may be out there. You could pick your favorite players, like, well, it would have been Patrick Mahomes back in the day. That was one of them guys that I liked on a regular basis to kind of dig in on some of the stars. But you can find anybody. Maybe Josh Johnson this weekend. How many passing yards he could have, touchdowns. What about Steph Curry over there in the NBA? A lot of those predictions can certainly stack out there for you. The new Stacks feature is also a game changer. You can now pick more or less on, say, Steph Curry's points or his threes and his assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, it's absolutely the worst. But you got the injury reboot. It saves your lineup from a complete loss. We've all been there, and it's absolutely the worst. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups for your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, Melissa Kim, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, and Nick Ashew. And this is why you got to watch us on YouTube, because you can listen and we listen. Appreciate however it is that you consume this show. David I've got the Santa hat on. It's Christmas Eve Christmas Eve day as we are doing this show live. Man. I don't know what the hell David now has on his head, but I love, this is how you know it's been a long season. Even David Harrison is in on bit season now. He is ready to wear a crazy hat. What is on your head right now?
Listen, I can be looser on the squad show. This is why I enjoy the squad show versus Locked On. I love Locked On Commanders, but I can be a little bit more me, which my wife will tell you can be incredibly weird. You guys are learning that in the group chat, obviously. Melissa, what's funny is Melissa's gonna get to know a different side of me than any other reporter in that room knows. So I don't even know as I'm like, man, like that David guy is real serious. She's be like, no, dude, he's not serious at all. So this is a chicken wing. This is the chicken wing hat. I retired from the Army in upstate New York, so I did catch a couple of Buffalo Bills games in Buffalo before I retired because I love football. Mm-hmm. And you can't go to Buffalo without getting buffalo wings. And if you go to Buffalo to get a buffalo wing, you get a buffalo wing hat. I'm not going to keep it on because it's incredibly uncomfortable. But yeah, buffalo wing hat. I wanted to be festive. I don't have Christmas things, but Melissa's got the Jingle Bell sweater. You got the hat. Anthony's got the Hail hat on that I can't wear because I'm a professional media member and I'm not a fan. So chicken wing. That's what we go for. I like that face that Anthony just made.
Man, that right there.
Although I do have that hat because I support Santana. So I could wear it in support of Santana because he's a media member now, right? Like I do actually have that hat. He's gonna autograph it for me, which is dope. But yeah,
I was gonna get the Redskins Santa hat, but my baby girl had just went in down for a nap, and I was not about to wake her up. But what I did do, I went into the next room and I went into a bit of history. See, my in-laws are Redskins fans, and this right here, you know what this is? This is from the original Jumbotron that was installed at FedEx Field back in 1997.
Oh, that's cool.
I was gonna say Jumbotron.
The light bright is what it's called.
That's cool.
The light bright.
Yeah, we got to go back that far. And you talk about the state of the rivalry. When you go back and you talk about guys like Santana Moss, you talk about 1990s, and you talk about the Cowboy Killer. That rivalry is good and well, at least coming from this side of things. From this side of things, it is definitely a hated rivalry. It's more hated from Washington towards Dallas than vice versa. But I tell you, it's alive and well. It's alive and well for sure, Melissa. I'm all good with it. I don't know. It may not have the same like big game, like top records against top records, like like that, but there's still disdain between the two teams and organizations for sure.
I think rivalries is one of the best things about covering sports or being in the sports world, right? Because you think about it at any single level. I can think like obviously at the NFL level, as we're talking Washington and Dallas, Steelers, Ravens. At the college level, you think about Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, even high schools, like the best high school rivalries, right? You think about it, it does not matter what your record was all season. Both teams could have literally one win all season long. But when it comes to that rivalry game, it does not matter. All records go out the window. If you beat that team, then the rest of your season is great. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we look back and we're like, well, at least we beat the Cowboys. At least we beat whoever it was. I remember when I was covering the SEC in Alabama, just as a quick aside, there were some coaches in their Alabama tenure that never beat Auburn. And there are some coaches in their Auburn tenure never beat Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have a perfect record that whole season. But if you did not win that Iron Bowl, then it did not matter. Then you might as well have lost the whole season. So I think that is what makes rivalry so great. I'm excited that this is going to be my first in real life Cowboys Commanders rivalry. So I'm very excited to see what goes down and to see if, I'm sure there are going to be some Dallas fans in the area, whatever. But I'm excited to see what's going to be like in real life. So I think it's going to be regardless of the records, which neither team is outstanding at the moment. But I think it's going to be fun regardless. That's why we play the game, right?
Yeah, and you know, it's Melissa too. It's funny because like when you talk about it not mattering how many wins the team has, that's how it is for fans, no matter what. I mean, even a fan that's pissed off about the season, you're a Commanders fan, you're still looking at this game and you want to beat Dallas. I have friends that are all in on the bad losses with me that are a fan of this team, but they say, I want to win on Christmas. I want that win. So it does absolutely still matter for people. And even over, you know, there have been good eras, there are bad years, and you know, all these things with both of these teams. But these games, there are certain, like, what makes rivalries great is a history of meaningful and heated games, big moments. Obviously, playoff games will add to that. But even in the regular season or the end of the regular season, I mean, you go back to RG3's rookie year, beating the Cowboys to win the division and make the playoffs. That's obviously one that comes, you know, near the top. There was, you know, Chris Cooley years ago. I'm not in my home studio. I've got actually a poster that was framed. I got it from another network that I worked for that, you know, I got to actually work with Chris Cooley years ago. And I remember talking about it. Like, anyway, none of this matters. My point is that there was that, you know, he had his game against the Cowboys. You know, that's certainly memorable. And Santana Moss, we've mentioned, a couple of late touchdowns against them. And we could talk about Colt McCoy even and his Monday night game against the Cowboys. Like, all of these different things. Even if the games don't matter specifically from a standings perspective, it matters to the players. It matters to the fans in their own way. There's an emotional thing there. Look, if you live in the DC area, you know Cowboys fans. It's a transient area. There are a lot of people from a lot of different places. You're going to know some Cowboys fans. This stuff matters. This stuff matters against the Eagles. This stuff matters against any of these division rivals. And especially, David, with just the history of this NFC East as a division as a whole, like there are, I don't care what generation, what age anybody is, this still has a history that means something to anybody of any age that's a fan of these teams.
Yeah, you know, and this is part of it where I can't necessarily relate directly to this rivalry because I didn't grow up a fan of either of these teams.
Mm-hmm.
I did grow up a fan of the Ohio State Buckeyes, which again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can probably tell by my backdrop. So I get rivalries, but I've got friends that are Cowboys fans.
Can you fit that on your head though? Can you fit that on your head real quick?
I actually do have one that is wearable. It's an authentic helmet that I could actually throw on, but my glasses have to come off. It's just a big production. So I do actually have friends. So I have friends that are Cowboys fans, and a couple of them actually got like legitimately mad at me when they found out I was going to start covering at the time the Washington football team, because they were like, "Why would you cover that team?" And I was like, "Well, I live in Virginia, so I can't cover the Cowboys." You know what I mean? Like, sorry, dude. But if I'm going to go to practice, Dallas is a little bit of a far commute for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the local team. And literally, like weeks like this, like they won't talk to me. Like I'm not even like a fan of the team that they're right. Like that's how serious they take, which, to be quite honest with you, I think is kind of ridiculous. One of my best friends is a Wolverine fan. But anyway, yeah. So, but the rivalry is real. I think the rivalry will always be there. I think the modern day rival being the Eagles is a little bit more real just because of recent history and obviously, you know, Nick Sirianni's go for two, you know, antics and all that stuff certainly add fuel to that fire. But I think that the history of this rivalry will never go away. And the second that both of these teams are fighting it out for the top of the NFC East, it's going to come back with a major fit.
I can't wait because I know when you first get in, there's always, you know, they have to give you the background and the history of the rivalry. Right? And growing up in Dallas, I mean, hey, I grew up a Cowboys fan. I mean, that was my first team. But like I said, we didn't have the rivalry going the other way. It wasn't a whole hate Washington week. It was another game on the schedule, So when I got up here and you saw how it was flipped the other way around, I was like, oh, okay, I got you. And then the biggest joke was, have you even, like any Cowboys fan up in the DMV area, is like, have you even ever been to Dallas? And then a good half of them was like, no, I've never been down there. And then that would be the biggest way to take it away. So it's cool. I mean, I know even when I would go down and play against Dallas a couple times, I had a chance to. Folks were like, I'll cheer for you. You can have all the yards and touchdowns you want, but they still wanted the Cowboys to get the W at the end of the day. But I don't know. It's been cool to be on both sides of it. But you see where I'm at right now, though, right? You see where I'm at right now. I know where my bread is buttered. I know who's taking care of me. The burgundy and gold, baby.
No, that's so real. And it's cool that you got to play on both sides of it too, because I think that's such a unique perspective, right? You get to see it from both sides, because not a lot of guys in the league can, or I guess now in college too, it's a little bit different game, but not a lot of guys in the league can say that they've played on both sides of the rivalry. That's really cool, I think. But also, like, when you say like that kind of like, Dave, when you're talking to about like your friends, like not talking to you for a whole week and stuff like that. Like, I mean, it's so real. Like, even guys that play together in college, if they're on opposite sides of an NFL rivalry, same thing. Like, they will not speak to each other for like they're like friends for the rest of the season, but just that 1 week, they're like not friends. And there's always, I feel like in a rivalry too, there's always kind of like a big brother, like little brother kind of like complex too. You know what I mean? Like one franchise always feels like they're the big brother and the other one's kind of like, the little brother that might be like trying to like meet up to big brother and stuff like that. So I think it's always just fun. It just makes for such a fun rivalry. The one that I grew up with was USC UCLA, because my dad was a professor at USC and my mom and our sisters season ticket holders, alums of UCLA till this very day. And like, I don't think a lot of people think about like West Coast, like rivalries, like as much as they do, like, in the Midwest and on the East Coast, but it was definitely a very big deal. Like that one weekend at the Coliseum, like every year, USC was always kind of the big brother when I was growing up. But I think it's a fun, cool, such a neat, unique thing, like these rivalries in sports. It's part of why we love sports so much, right? I think that is such a big part of it all. So I'm a fan. I love it. I can't wait for tomorrow.
Do you think they need to have, like, we don't have like a trophy between the game? You know what I mean? Like cool. In college, West Texas A&M, we in Eastern New Mexico, these directional Division II schools, we would play our rivalry game for the wagon wheel. Right. And it was a literal wagon wheel, and we won that sucker a few times. You know what I mean? So they need to have a prize. Like, what would be the prize if you had to put a trophy on this rivalry? What would it be, David? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't think I'm the right person. I think Nick is actually, I feel like Nick would be a much better person for that. But I do want to say this one last thing about rivalries. I think what's cool about the rivalry thing is it's something that I think fans obviously embrace, media can appreciate, but players also are a part of. And I think it's one of the few things in this business where all three levels, because very often, and Anthony, obviously, this, but like, players see it one way, the media sees it a different way, the fans see it a different way, and you're not oftentimes connected. There's a little bit of a go-between there. But like, I remember Broncos week talking to, a couple of guys who were former Chiefs. I'm not going to say them by name, but you can figure it out if you really want to. And I was like, what do you think about the Broncos? Like, we hate the Broncos. Like, still to this day, just despise the Broncos. I got my bachelor's degree from Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State. So the other day, I have an Arizona State quarter zip. Don't really think anything of it. It was like, okay, practice, throw something on. It's going to be warm because it's kind of chilly out there. And I'm talking to Bill, and like mid-conversation, he goes, whoa. He's like, what are you wearing? And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? And I looked down. I'm like, oh, because he spent his last year of college at Arizona. I was like, whoa. And I had to like kind of explain to him, like, hey, like, don't forget, like, I'm also the dude when you got drafted. It was like, hey, this guy, like, I'm like one of the first people to like pump you up. We got He's like, okay, I forgive you. Then I go talk to Drake Jackson, and Drake Jackson's a USC guy. And as soon as I walk up to him, he's like, bro, what is that shirt? He's like, if you need better gear, I can hook you up with some USC stuff. And I'm like, bro, like it's not like you're in the NFL now. Like, it's not that real. Safe to say, I'm probably never gonna wear an Arizona State shirt to practice again. I wore an Ohio State jacket to practice once, and Mikey Sainristil comes around the corner and is literally mid, hey, what's up to me, looks right at the shoulder of my jacket and just goes, nah, man, and just walks behind me. I was like, Mikey, and he just starts laughing because it's all in fun. Don't get me wrong, but the rivalries are real. I will tell you this: I can confirm from one Terry McLaurin that there was an Ohio State Michigan jersey bet offered, and nobody took it. Just saying, that's almost worse than losing. But Nick, I mean, Commanders Cowboys trophy. Like, I think that's a good idea, but I don't know what the idea. Like, all I can think of is buffalo wing hat, and that doesn't make any sense.
Well, first off, I still want you to wear that buffalo wing hat for the rest. So it's funny. There you go, Anthony. So here's what we could do. We could take a trophy. All right. And this is off the top of my head. And we're going to go crazy with this because we don't have anything like this. We got a trophy and it's got a half smoke on it for DC. It's got brisket for Texas. But the winning team gets to smash off the other food because they won. So the Commanders win. You smash off the brisket, and it's like a detachable trophy. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with something that's also going to make this different than anything else because there was this challenge from David to come up with something. I'm like, we can just do a trophy, or we can make it a little more active and maybe a little more violent. Take a rubber mallet and smash off the brisket when the Commanders win.
Yeah, but you don't disrespect the brisket like that, man. You don't disrespect the brisket like that. That right there.
It's funny.
Like, that's like if I was like, I'm going to knock over your old bay. Y'all would be like, no, sir. Yeah. Absolutely. That is not, that is too
but here's
far.
The thing. That's what makes the rivalry so great. Look, we got guys dancing on logos. We got guys dancing on logos and planting flags in college football. That's what makes it great. It should be getting you should be disrespecting the other food. Look,
listen, anybody who's watching this or listening to this
as a family later.
Listen, if you're listening to this, go to you. If you have an idea, drop it in the comments. I mean, I know the branding manager for the Washington Commanders. Like, I literally bring ideas to him. And look, I don't want to spoil anything, but I offered him a suggestion on Major Tuddy's costume. And I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I will tell you that he is running the idea up the flag to a major brand partner. Then you may see Major Tuddy a little bit dripped out here in the near future. I can't give too many details. But you know, so we can make some things happen. Maybe we can figure this out.
My gosh, my goodness, we'll figure it out. Yeah, put that in the comments. That'll be fun. That'll be fun.
But I'll tell you what, though, like that is really what makes college football so great. Is it the rivalries have an extra layer, and I don't even, who knows, the NFL might even have like maybe there's some rule out there that wouldn't even let a trophy be a thing. I don't know, but like the only thing you see is I guess like a turkey leg on Thanksgiving, but you can make up those little traditions. I'd love to see more of that type of thing, but you know, at this point now, that's the best idea I have is a trophy with two things, and you disrespect the other city's food, and then it makes people a little more angry. You know, remember last year on Christmas when the Commanders smashed that brisket on the other half of the trophy, and it showed up it was just this like that. That's what adds something to it. But yeah, look, it's something that no matter what has its roots. It has its anger, and I'm sure there are plenty of people that know households that have people married that are on two sides of a rivalry, and that ain't easy. And it definitely makes weeks like this that much more difficult. But you can still have it be a situation where wins and losses with really bad records still matter when it's all said and done, especially for a season like this. If you're the Commanders, you're a fan of this team, or you're covering this team or whatever. When you're covering it, I get it. You may not be necessarily rooting for a side, but it's nice to see a meaningful win on national TV if you're not rooting for bad losses like myself. It has been such a bad season that the Commanders had one Pro Bowler. And it's a guy, of course, that you would expect. It's a guy that has been as consistent as anybody within this organization. We'll look at what this season was and what could have been as well when it comes to Pro Bowlers and the potential for next season and some of the talent on this roster. It's Commander Squad. All right, Melissa Kim, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, Nick Ashew with Commander Squad. We have one Pro Bowler for this team. One, it's Tress Way, who's been there and most consistent and has been Offensive Player of the Year for this team. I think not really, but you know what I mean. Like over the years, this has been the one guy that you could always count on. Listen, I will just say this about kickers. I get people like to make fun of them. I get that people like to say, hey, they're not real football players. Here's the thing. You make fun of a kicker until you need him to win a game for you. You make fun of a punter until you need him to pin an offense back inside the 5-yard line late in the fourth quarter. So they are still exceptionally valuable. And Tress Way has been Tress Way will go down as a legendary member of this organization when it's all said and done. But bigger picture here. When you look at some of the teams like, the 49ers and, I think the list of teams that like the Seahawks had a bunch of Pro Bowlers. I think they were right near the top in terms of, when you look at what could have been for this team without the injuries, we know the record would have been better, David. We know this team would have certainly been more successful, even if they had taken a step back from last season. There is still a lot of talent on this team to move forward with in the offseason. I know they've got questions at certain positions when contracts are coming up. But when I do look at this roster and go, Terry McLaurin healthy probably would have been a Pro Bowler. Jaden Daniels, would there have been a sophomore slump? That might be a separate conversation. I think Deebo Samuel healthy this year could have seen himself as potentially a Pro Bowler if used in this offense consistently. We saw early in the season. Like, there's just a lot that I do look on this roster at with all of this as we wind down this season. I do still look and go, there is a lot of talent that you can build around where I don't see this being a 3 and 4 year like build up to be a true contender. If they do it right this offseason, they could be right back in a position where we're talking about them competing for the division if healthy next offseason.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth and like opinions on how realistic a bounce back is for next season, and the reason for that is because the 1 year is just the 1 year, right? There's not like there's a string of successful years and then a down season, so it's a little bit more believable. Like you look at the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, this time last year, people were wondering, is Kyle Shanahan going to get fired? Should they just blow it up, trade Nick Bosa, trade everybody you can for draft picks and do all this? And now they're right at in the middle of the chase for the NFC West Division title, and they're going to the playoffs as one of the favorites to maybe go to the Super Bowl. The difference between believing them obviously is they've had some success leading up to it. You look at the Baltimore Ravens, and even with their years of success, with what's going on now, in the neighbors here in the DMV, like people are wondering, does Harbaugh need to get fired, and do they need to blow that whole thing up? So it's kind of just the way the hot and cold atmosphere of the NFL operates. But the good news about it is it runs hot and cold like that because as quickly as a team can turn south, they can turn north just as fast, right? And you look at the Indianapolis Colts for a stretch this year, and you look at some of these other teams out there that are making noise. Jacksonville Jaguars are about to win the AFC South, and nobody saw that coming except for me. But so the Washington Commanders, they have talent, right? Deebo Samuel, like, can he do more than just screens and jet sweeps? Yeah, he can. So he just needs to be in an offense that does that. Cliff Kingsbury said that they're not really using the offense he thought he was going to use this season. He's using his plan B offense. Well, plan B offense very likely could have been last year's offense because last year's offense was pretty stinking good. So that's a pretty decent plan B offense to fall back on. The problem is all these defenses understand that plan B offense as well. I actually did a deep dive in this on my last Locked On Commanders episode, so I won't rehash it all now, but if you're interested, go back and look at it, because basically what they've turned Deebo Samuel into this season is Olamide Zaccheaus. The problem is we all saw Deebo Samuel being a lot better than Olamide Zaccheaus. I love OZ, no offense to him, but it's just tiers of players in this game, in this business. And the Deebo we saw in training camp and even in parts of the preseason, joint training practice more than anything, obviously, is not what we've seen from this offense this year. So when Cliff says, I'm not using the offense that I wanted to use, I fully believe him. The problem is I still have a problem with the fact that the offense you ended up using is not developing, not innovating, not coming up with ways to get people open, because it's one thing to say, well, I couldn't use the system I wanted. It's another thing to say, so I just went to this other season and said, F it, let's see what happens in 2026.
Oh, gosh. That's frustrating. Damn it. Shoot. You talk about turning it around quickly. 19 first timers in the Pro Bowl. That's what we do. That's what I'm gonna pivot back over here before I get upset. 19 first timers in the Pro Bowl. All right. That means that you can get some young folks in there. I think like the Ravens, they had like 7 Pro Bowlers, and I think some of that is like off of respect, right? You like a Roquan Smith, that's a guy you respect in this league. He plays at a high level. He gets some wins. They're going to be like, oh, we're going to give him a hat tip over the young fella down there, Jordan Brooks in Miami, that comes to mind, who had a hell of a season and did not get in. Hell, the guy over there, Nashawn Wright in Chicago, he leads the league in takeaways or forced turnovers, something along the lines, and he didn't even make it. So it's one of those things that people hang their hat on it. I know sometimes you got your contract, you got some incentives in there on that, but you can turn some things around. I think with Washington, unfortunately, we're not at a spot to where you're just going to have players make it to the Pro Bowl just because that's who they are and they're just going to have that name. You got to have some wins that come with it as well. You know what I mean? There has to be some sort of success on the field, in the record that says, hey, okay, they're in the playoffs and they're making some noise. Oh, yeah, and they're playing well, right? If you put some W's, if we have 7-8 wins, you probably get a couple more Pro Bowlers, more than Tress Way. So, and I'd add Bobby Wagner would have been one of those Pro Bowlers. I think would have probably made that list as well. Had things been going a little bit better for us this year, Melissa.
Yeah, I was going to say Bobby Wagner was the one name that I was going to mention because he, I think, is absolutely deserving. I mean, that man is out there still hustling every single week, and it's evident in games when you look at not even just looking at the stat sheet, but looking at his body language on the field. I think that is a true leader and definitely deserving of a Pro Bowl nod. But I mean, there's a lot of guys, there when I think about, Jordan Love, maybe, Cam Hayward, some of these other guys that didn't get Pro Bowl nods that absolutely deserve them. And it does have to honestly, unfortunately, do with the record, right? And when we were mentioning earlier kind of about how like teams can turn things around so quickly. One of the things too is I think right now we live in a society that is so reactionary, especially when it comes to sports. And immediately like it's like one loss, like, oh my God, the world is ending, right? And it's like one win, like, oh my God, we're going to the Super Bowl. So I think that is kind of, there has to be a balance between that, right? In terms of, yes, like obviously there's a reaction after a win or a loss. You're passionate about the team, obviously, but also like maybe a little bit like more big picture too. And I think that Commanders fans, for the most part, the ones that I've talked to have been of the reasonable variety. So, and not as reactionary because they're looking at, I think, as we are too, kind of big picture now. Already in week 17, given the way that the season has been going, we're looking at the offseason and what could possibly be next year and who's coming back and who can prove their worth on the field right now for next season. So, Tress, cool, love him. I don't know if you guys have seen the video. The one thing that comes to mind for him is he asked one of his kids, like, who are you most excited to see here today? When he like came to the facility, he's like, Terry. And then he's like, okay, who else? And it was somebody else. I can't remember who it was. And then he's like, okay, and he's like, Daddy. So he's like, I'm third, even for my kid. So it's good. That was a problem. So gotta love him though. He is such a veteran. And I remember talking to him actually on the first day of training camp. And he was like, it never gets old. He's like, we're out here having fun and like playing football and it's nice out. He's like, what is there to complain about? So can't say enough lovely things about Tressway.
Those specialists got it good, man.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It's easy because if you're a good punter, it's just simple. There's no pressure. You do your job. Nobody criticizes you. Everybody loves you. It's easy. It's not like a receiver. You drop the ball once, Anthony, and then everybody's like,
Bruh.
That Anthony Armstrong, man, he's a bum. And it's like, yeah, but I just had a 60-yard reception literally last drive.
Yeah, when I see if you put it in the end zone, you'd be okay. There is a little weird ratio of things. I feel like if you take a kickoff to the house in the NFL, you're going to get 3 years in. Like, that's it. You take one your first year, your rookie year, you're going to get at least 3 years in the league. That's just, it's an inexact science, but you're going to be in there because they're like, hey, man, remember what you did? You can do that again. They're trying to rekindle that same fire. And then just like you see guys like, I think about MVS. The guy is a burner. He's going to drop a pass or two, but he's also going to give you a 70 or 80 yarder. It's like a 50-50, 60, 70. I don't know if he's going to catch it, but hey, he's still got the speed. That's who he is, man. That just comes with it. But Tress is as steady as they come. Yeah, he was even great about changing his jersey number, and he understood that. Like, come on, man, go ahead and give him in the Ring of Honor too, and get that out of the way right now. That'd be a great way to end his career. You know what I mean? Just get that done now.
Do that. His last game of his career, just put him in there.
Yeah. He'll be the most famous, the two most famous specialists in Washington football history would be Tressway and Mark Mosley. And if I'm missing somebody else, I apologize. But I know Mark is going to tell you about his MVP season and all of that, and he should have won. He's going to tell you about it. Mr. Mosley will. Shout out to Mark, man.
Hey, do you know how many people that I've worked with that are like, outside of DC, right? That are in, it's in sports media, obviously, that have no idea Mark Mosley won an MVP. Not a clue. It's one of the greatest, like, trivia questions that you could ever bring up to somebody. Name the only kicker that's won MVP, and they're like, huh? And it always throws people off. So, yeah, he's right at the top of the list. It's also a great way to troll people and call him the greatest kicker of all time. And then that becomes a whole thing. And you say, well, I'm sorry. Did anybody else, these kickers you win an MVP? None of them ever did. And that's how you end the argument every single time. That's all you have to do. But yeah, look, Tressway goes down as a fan favorite and somebody that's had a lot of success doing what he's done for a long time here. I mean, Matt Turk, you can go back to the Matt Turk days way back in the day, there's maybe there. But yeah, like it's, he's somebody that is, you see that consistency at other positions too. So, look, when you're going ahead, You got the Dallas Cowboys on Christmas Day. I'm sure Netflix would have liked this game to mean a little bit more from a standings perspective, but it still means something from a rivalry perspective. We'll look at specifically what needs to happen in this game for the Commanders to get a win, or maybe if you're in my case, a really nice loss so they can have a better draft position. It's Commander Squad. All right, Melissa Kim, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, Nick Ashew, Commanders and Cowboys to kick things off on Netflix on Christmas Day. It's still a little weird that they're doing this, but it is what it is. And, as somebody that also loves the NBA and has spent years covering the NBA, I still feel like it's the NBA's day, but that may be a conversation for another show and another podcast. Look, I'll just tell you guys this now. I mean, I'm not going into this game with high expectations for this depleted team and a third-string quarterback out there. As solid as Josh Johnson is for the position that he's put in and for the career that he's had and all these things, I mean, Dallas is going to be healthier, and as long as they stay healthy, I don't know who's going to be on what sort of snap count, who's going to be in, who's going to be out there getting a level of targets that you might expect. Look, man, Dallas has an offense that is potent. We saw it earlier this year against this team. And you know how I feel about first quarters, David. If Washington gets down early and George Pickens gets in the end zone, he's fighting for a new contract this offseason. Like, those are the types of things where I go, yeah, this might be ugly. This might not be pretty. And it's just, some of it's just a talent thing. It's like who's left out there for the Commanders, and it's who Dallas still has, even if Dallas isn't even going full speed at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because honestly, like, the door being left open for Sam Hartman to play next week, the fact that he's now on the active roster, which is partially, I mean, he has to be on the active roster to be the emergency quarterback, so that's part of it too. But the fact that like the narrative, not even the narrative, like the words from Dan Quinn have kind of shifted. Like a week ago, hey coach, like any chance you would see Sam Hartman play? Nah, that's not going to happen. To now, it's like, oh well, we'll see how things go and we'll see what turns up and what turns out and all that stuff. Like, there's definitely a little bit of a shift in the intentionality of it. And of course, like when we talk about tanking, like it's never a tank as in like the players on the field, the coaches on the sideline are trying to lose. But the way that an NFL franchise can't, like the closest an NFL franchise comes to tanking is putting their least capable players on the field against another team's group of players that are probably more capable. And again, everybody's going to go for the win. Everybody's going to try to win the game. But in that kind of a way, you could, I guess, like I said, that's the closest you're going to get to tanking, which is still not actually tanking. So it's just interesting because, Anthony, like we kind of talked about this already, like, if we get to the point where Sam Hartman comes in there, even if we get to the point like next week, not next week, tomorrow, if Jeff Driscoll comes in, like, is it because Josh Johnson isn't doing well? This game is still salvageable. So Jeff comes in, you still have Terry, you still have Debo, you still have these guys. They haven't had a lot of time on task, a lot of reps to try to get timing down and all that stuff. If you do turn to Sam Hartman, whether it be for the second half, like you have to, right, go to Treylon Burks, who, I mean, Treylon might have, like, feel a little like, it's like, hey, I'm a first round pick trying to salvage my career out here. Like, you know what I mean? So he might feel a kind of way about it as well. But, it's just going to be interesting to see because you only have so many players, right, Anthony? So, like, you can't sit all your starters. Like, so who goes out there and plays? Almost like that final preseason game, and you're like, oh, this dude's suiting up. Like, maybe he's not as safe as I thought he was.
Yeah, I think that it'd be more telling than the next one. I feel like this one you kind of got to keep it to the OGs out there. If Sam gets in, it's got to simply be because somebody went down an injury, unfortunately. But that has not been beyond the season. That has not been beyond it. So keep your helmet close because all I think about is the daggum. What's my favorite movie? Any Given Sunday, man. Where they're like, B-Man, he can't find his helmet. They're like, Hartman, and he can't find his helmet, that type of thing. But no, ultimately, I think he's got to stay with the OGs, right? But if it does get down to Sam, I think you got to start to protect some of your other people. But if you really want to evaluate him, shoot, it may be helpful to keep him out there with the, Terry and Debo, especially if he knows the offense, at least the time in the building, longer than Driscoll could make some sense to leave him out there as well. But what I think needs to happen, you talk about jumping out early, I think they just need to have fun. As a play caller, have fun. I still think you can lead with running the rock, but come back with an aggressive play action pass and throw that sucker deep, man. I'm talking, let's see if we can get 34-35. Run up 69 points or something in this game. Let's just have fun. Try to run up the score as much as you can and attack the defense as best you can. If you know you got those big guys up front, could slow down the run. May not be able to do that all day. Attack the secondary. Trevon Diggs is kind of getting back out there. He's been susceptible. I'm not sure the health of DeRon Bland, but he's been susceptible. And you talk about Treylon Burks, David. If I'm him, I want all the reps. I will tell Terry to sit down. I might hide Terry's cleats if I'm Treylon Burks because I still want to get more reps. You know what I mean? I don't want to be known as just that one catch against Denver, right? I want to make another one of those. I want to get in the end zone again. I'm hungry if I'm Treylon Burks. Hell, I might hide Treylon Burks. So if you see Treylon looking confused and you see 13 on the field, that's me. All right, because I done snuck on the field, trying to get back in the game and re-up my insurance like Phillip Rivers, Melissa.
I'm envisioning when you're like, have fun, like the girl with the sign that's like, I just want both teams to have fun. I don't know if fans feel the same way, but also, Dallas, they're probably not. I mean, I don't think that they're looking at this game in the same perspective, perhaps, that we are, just because, they haven't won a game since almost a month, too, since like November 27th. Like they lost the Lions, the Vikings, Chargers in like kind of like devastating ways. It wasn't just like, oh, last second, like field goal or something. It was like, oh no, you got like beat. So I think that they are probably going to be a little bit more jazzed perhaps for this game. But in that same juncture, my hope is that everybody gets out of this game healthy. Like, you know what I mean? Because like that's kind of obviously been an issue these last 2 weeks when you're just like, oh my God, who else is going to get hurt? So that is my Christmas wish. I wish I'd rephrase my open now that I said health is wealth, everybody. And in that case, if that's the case, if health is wealth, then the Commanders are destitute right now. But let's hope that is not the case after tomorrow. I just want everybody, in the same vein that you want everyone to have fun, I want everyone to be healthy.
Healthy and fun's the way to go.
Yeah, Nick. I don't think anybody wants to see any no injuries, especially for the Commanders team. I think that would be a nice one to get out of this and leave that. Yeah, look, you have nothing to lose. I want to see somebody like a Treylon Burks get a bunch of deep shots. I know he's not really a guy to get a ton of separation, but like just give that guy an opportunity. Give him a bunch of targets. Like, what do you have to lose at this point? So, Christmas Day, we can at least watch a game, at least that looks close, that's fun, that's competitive. I have a toy that's sitting here too, guys, since I say one more thing. This is my nephew's toy. So, it's for Christmas. I want to see hanging on the other end of this. I'll go with a Commanders bad loss still because I'm thinking about draft picks. So that's what I'm going to hang on in here. I don't know. I just figured I'd go with the toy because it's the end of that. So, all right. Well, everybody have a great Christmas. Or if you don't celebrate Christmas, then, enjoy December 25th and whatever it is that you do that day. Commanders, Cowboys, it's still a rivalry. Even with
enjoy your Thursday.
It's supposed to be kind of warm, I think, too. Yeah, enjoy your Thursday. If that's, it is what it is. Commanders 7.5-point dogs at home, and the total's 50.5 for anybody that cares or maybe partakes a little bit in that game. Make sure you like and subscribe, of course, in the Locked On Commanders podcast. David will be handling that every single day as well. We will be back after the game. We will have that. We will be continuing throughout at this point now, let's be real. We're looking ahead now to the offseason for this team. These games are just a formality, but that's what really matters now is what do we take away from the last couple weeks of the season, and what does that mean this offseason for this team? Give us a follow on all the socials as well. This is Commander Squad.